we are in the Sting line right there, baby. Where we at? Where we at, Paul? Where we at though in this thing? It goes back as far as the eye can see outside. It's a bad place to be. We were in the front of the Sting line.
Title, the icon.
The icon Sting right there on the top. We'll have Sting. Thanks, Robbie. Wow. Hey, what up, everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you here today. I was going to be making a video about, I guess, everyone's favorite wrestler of the week right now, Sting. Last week, I was able to make a video on my chances of meeting Stone Cold Steve Austin at SummerSlam. That made me remember my long string of videos I've made in the past of my experience of meeting wrestlers. I always just tell the story about what's going on. So I've been able to meet Sting twice. Once at Bound for Glory last year down in San Diego. He was the main event signer if you went to the fan experience. And then once again, I was able to meet him on my Click 30 trip this year down to WrestleMania. He was one of the, I guess he was the main eventer of Sunday at WrestleCon. Both of these experiences, honestly, to me, they weren't the best experiences, but honestly, I have a list of wrestlers, the link will be down in the description box, like that I guess you can say treated me the worst. And I've also got a list of wrestlers that treated me the best throughout my time, so hopefully you guys will check those out and see where some guys rank. But I wouldn't put Sting in my worst experiences of meeting wrestlers for the main reason is I think it was more my fault than anything else. Both times, when my trip down to TNA Bound for Glory, Sting was signing in between both fan experiences, and you would go through one fan experience, you would meet everybody, you always have enough time. It's not a knock on TNA for not enough people there or anything like that, but it's just, they gave you enough time, they made sure that you met every single person, then you would go line up in your Sting line, and then you would come back and you would go through the second part of fan experience where they would, or fan interaction, where they would have the first group of wrestlers leave, and the second group of wrestlers would come in. But basically, I went up to Bob Ryder and I asked him, I said, hey, where do we go to meet Sting? And he said, well, that's a good question. And he went and found out that Sting was going to be signing in a separate room off to the side, and said, if you'd like to be the first one to get in line will start right here with you. So I wanted to make sure I was the first guy to meet Sting. That way I'd be able to go in and I'd be able to get in the, I think it was the AJ Styles line that I wanted to get in first, thinking that he was going to have the longest line of everybody. It ended up being Jeff Hardy, even though he wasn't in the main event, had the longest line by far. I don't know, people wanted to make sure they met him 2 or 3 times, but there was never a time when Jeff Hardy didn't have the longest line of the whole time. But when I went in to meet Sting, I was able to see him come down the hallway. I was able to see him go up to the podium, and then they ushered me in and said, let's go. Sting just really looked like he just didn't want to be there. He didn't have his face paint on. He just was, I guess you can say, Steve Borden. He was just himself, and that was it. I just walked up, I handed him my picture to sign, and he just sort of signed it, and then we turned, took a photo, and I walked off. That honestly was it. I mean, I just got the vibe from him that honestly he just wasn't really looking forward to doing this much. I'm sure that he knows that with his TNA deal, that when they did these signings, he was the highest ranking guy in the company. They needed to have him there. Kurt Angle wasn't doing any sort of interactions at the time. This was when he was first coming back from his absence when he left trying to get cleaned up in TNA. And Hulk Hogan had recently just left the company. So that's mainly on me more than anything. Who knows if I would have opened my mouth and said something to him or asked some story about him and Ric Flair in the past, maybe I would have got a better answer. But I didn't. And then when we went to Wrestle Reunion, WrestleCon, whatever it was this year, I didn't plan on meeting Sting. Ravi was going to meet Sting, Assault and Battery 777, Miguel, freaking 88. They had bought tickets, and basically that was the only reason why we were going to WrestleCon that day. They had a horrible experience on day one, where Justin and Ravi, had to wait several hours just to get in the door in order to meet wrestlers at WrestleCon due to just bad planning on how they were going to do the tickets for the people who pre-bought over the internet. They had said that they hadn't, already prepaid for their admission and to meet Sting, that we probably wouldn't have gone. Honestly, I don't know if maybe the lineup was stronger on day one, or maybe these people were scared away by the bad reports about day one. Day two was very easy. We walked right up to the door, we walked right in, met the wrestlers that we wanted to meet, and right on time, the Sting signing happened in the back. They had it wasn't in the ring or anything like that, but they had like a stage set up where it looked like it was the entrance into a ramp to get into the wrestling ring. Maybe they used it for when they ran the show there. I'm not sure. We didn't go to the wrestling show. But, I went around as they were meeting Sting, and I did everything I could. And then I was approached. I don't think I've told this story, but I'll leave this man nameless. And so he came up to me and he said, "Hey, you know what? When I went up to meet them, they forgot to take my ticket. They didn't rip it. They didn't take it. They didn't write on it. And they said, if you want to go meet Sting, more than likely you're going to be able to meet him." And he handed me his ticket, and then I just jumped in line and got up there. Hell, get one picture as a twit pic. I don't have to pay anything for it. I'm standing here already. I've already met Cole Cabana. I already met whoever else I was meeting there that day. I'm not holding the group up, so yeah, why not? I'll go meet Sting again. Went through the line, got all the way up to Sting, and I could hear the people. As time got on, it wasn't every single person, but from when I was about 10th in line, I honestly heard every other person tell Sting, I can't wait to see you on Monday. I hope you debut at WrestleMania. I mean, he was the guy that his name was out there. He was recently not with TNA anymore. So, it was only a matter of time before he signed with WWE. A lot of people said that he would debut and run some year-long angle coming in on Monday Night Raw. So I could tell that just he didn't want to hear this. Like he probably had already made up his decision. He'd already signed or he hadn't signed. And, me telling him that I'm excited to see him wasn't going to be the thing that made him sign his name on the dotted line. I'm thinking that more than likely now Sting probably has signed with WWE after doing the T-shirt, the video game, going to Comic-Con for them to help push Mattel. There's got to be something that they're doing together. Maybe they're still trying to find out if he's going to be a performer or if he's going to be a legend deal, but he's got to be part of the WWE family somehow along the way. But with Sting, I just did the same gimmick. It's funny thing about it, as I was waiting in line, the person actually came up to check my ticket, and I just wanted to get the picture, but I didn't want to really draw any attention to me, so I handed them the ticket, and they said, "Well, this says you get 2 autographs. What are you getting signed?" And I wasn't ready for that question, so I honestly was, I was gonna get an 8x10, but I didn't get one. I forgot. And she said, I'll get you one. And then they came back and they handed it to me, and I said, "Oh, thank you very much." And they said, "That'll be $5." And I didn't want to be too cheap or whatever, but meeting Sting for $5 isn't that bad. So I gave them $5 for their undersized 8x10, where they basically just took a TNA 8x10, copied it with the Xerox thing, printed it out, but didn't even print it the size of the 8x10 piece of paper. So it looks horrible. But Sting signed it, and then basically we just looked, smiled, and took a picture. And I said, "It must be nice. You're the guy that everybody's talking about here." And that was my experience. Probably one of the 2 most laziest, I guess is a good answer, but the 2 most boringest meetings with a wrestler ever. More on my fault more than anybody else. I don't know. Sting was very entertaining for me during the Monday Night Wars. He was one of those guys that always really stood out when I was watching WCW back in the day. But he just never really has stuck with me. I guess, I always was a WWE guy. I would watch Nitro, but I always was rooting for WWF to overcome them, and I was glad when they won the war. But I don't know. Meeting Sting, boring to me. Anybody else have an experience? Was it a good one? Was it a bad one? Let me know.